Library 104, Introduction to Library Technical Services, Processing Materials. How do we physically prepare materials? This week we will be looking at the processing procedures in the library, or what really happens to the materials after we've received them from an order placed through our acquisitions processes. Processing materials. After receiving materials, you will need to process them. Processing entails adding information to material and preparing them for long-term storage or access by our communities. Because each library has unique needs, the processing system will not look the same. Some libraries use processing slips or sheets that help track where an item is in the process. But typically what occurs is that the materials are received and verified against a packing slip that comes with the materials. Materials are checked for any damages that may have occurred during shipping or if there are any defects. The materials might be cataloged at this point. Additionally, barcodes, spine labels, property stamps, due date slips, security strips, or RFID tags are also commonly applied. Books are usually covered with a laminate or other protective material before being sent to the shelves. Remember, when verifying materials against an order, always check the packing slip against your order if you have access to it. Sometimes orders are not shipped together. Most of the time, orders are split up over multiple shipments. So tracking when you receive orders and what is still outstanding is essential. If you have a good vendor, they will assist with this process. And then, after you confirm that everything is in the shipment listed on the sheet, you'll want to examine the items for any damages. During processing, cataloging is part of this process. Through cataloging materials, specific identifiers such as barcodes and call numbers are solidified. Once these are added to an item's record, they may still need to be printed or affixed to the book if they are not already. This will depend on the library's internal processes. Generally speaking, your library system will come equipped with a feature to generate labels for either barcodes, spine labels, or both. You may need additional labels too, depending on the library, such as subject or age range labels. When placing labels on books, the call numbers can be found on spine labels, named so because they go on the book's spine. Typically, these labels will be laminated to protect them from peeling off. They are generally affixed to a book before it's covered or laminated to remain protected, whereas other labels that might be temporary should be affixed on the top of the book's protective cover or lamination so that it can be removed and be replaced much more easily. Sometimes these labels can have a foil backing to prevent fading or deterioration. Still, those foil back labels might interfere with other technologies that the library might employ later, such as RFID. Furthermore, labels don't always fit on the spine of a book, so what do? Sometimes you have to turn the label so the numbers are visible. Other times the label has to go on the book's cover. Another label that might be affixed during processing are book plates or a property sticker. Book plates are sometimes affixed to items that have been donated to the library, or maybe to give credit back to the person who donated them. Maybe even to indicate if they belong to a certain class if you're working in a school library. There may also be additional labels placed on multimedia devices, as these are harder to stamp. Stamping materials is a common and quick way to indicate ownership of an item. Plus, they can hold other messages such as "for library use only" or "discard." Stamps can include a date, sometimes when a book was processed or received, as well as other locations. When stamping books, common places to place a stamp is on the inside cover, the edge of a page, as well as a random page, random to perhaps a reader, but usually a specific page number for the library. In contrast to stampings, some libraries may choose to emboss their materials. Embossing leaves a raised imprint on pages without having to use ink or an adhesive. Embossing can look a lot nicer than other options, but it's a little more time consuming to do, especially if you need to emboss multiple pages. Tracking use and security is also set up through processing. What we add to the materials, whether physically or online in its catalog record, allows us to gather usage statistics as well as to secure the item. One of the most basic tools that we have to track usage is the barcode. Barcodes provide a unique number to any item that allows an item to then be tracked in the system effectively and efficiently. Through barcoding, we can systematically set up notifications to users that have items and control how an item is used. Barcodes can also protect a user's activities, as the barcode may be tracked, but titles of items can then be separated from the data that is collected. Barcodes can be attached to any item as well. RFID is a little different than barcoding, but follows a similar idea. RFID stands for Radio Frequency Identification, and it's more intelligent than a barcode system in that the RFID tag can store information and transmit data. Whereas barcodes have to be scanned, RFID can be pushed out on a signal that can be traced to a system. So one can tell if an item is out of place on a shelf or even in the building when using RFID technology. It tracks the material and is used for security. Barcodes, on the other hand, can't be really used to secure any material. Electromagnetic security strips is a way to secure material. These strips are placed inside items, and then the item has to be desensitized in order for it to leave an area without triggering an alarm. It's really hard to remove these strips once they're placed in an item. Although they don't transmit data like RFID tags, they are much more common in libraries because they are usually simpler and less expensive. And that's the overall idea of processing materials. There are additional videos that highlight some different methods and items, so be sure to watch those later to give you a better idea of what's entailed. And have a great week.